In this video, I will give you a UFO news update for April 12th, 2023. On April 10th, it was reported that Simon & Schuster imprint wins bidding war for twist-filled memoir by U.S. intelligence officer tangled up in mysterious military program. Now, this new book looks truly wild, and even Lou Elizondo commented on it, which we'll get into in a short bit. I will read the entire very short story on this book because it's really mind-blowing. It was published in Deadline.com and is linked below. Exclusive. Simon & Schuster imprint Gallery Books has won a bidding war for North American publishing rights to a twist-filled true story rooted in intrigue surrounding a U.S. Air Force program. The logline for the memoir by Scott Andrew takes some time to unpack, but it's a doozy. Andrew is a former senior U.S. soldier and decorated intelligence officer who conducted global counterterrorism operations on behalf of the United States during a 36-year military career. Shortly after returning from an overseas mission, he began to suffer from rare life-threatening ailments that defied medical explanation. Rather than succumbing, he instead began experiencing special, inexplicable abilities, such as remote viewing, and his body began to heal, baffling doctors. As he sought more information about his health, Andrews came across a file compiled for him by his late father. It contained records from a past he did not remember, including documents indicating he was removed from school for weeks every year from the 1st through 12th grades. The records also contained a shocker that he received an honorable discharge from the U.S. Air Force and worked in space intelligence communications as a minor. Andrews maintains he has no memory of having served in the U.S. Air Force. Look, I have no idea of the veracity of this story, and I'm sure once this book comes out, we can analyze the prospect of it being true or untrue. I will definitely be reading it. This latest segment of the article seems to indicate that Scott Andrews had his memory wiped on behalf of the Air Force. Of course, this strains credulity, but let's not forget that Project MK Ultra, an illegal human experimentation program designed and undertaken by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, intended to develop procedures and identify drugs that could be used in interrogations to weaken individuals and force confessions through brainwashing and psychological torture, was in operation from a whopping 1953 to 1973. So it's not beyond the realm of possibility that the U.S. government has engaged in funny business beyond that time frame. It's plausible. Now, let's continue with the article. Referred to a classified White House National Security Council program which had been delegated to the Department of Defense, Andrews then met a man who ran the highly classified program who introduced him to a doctor. The doctor had worked for the CIA and had expertise enabling him to help Andrews start to piece together what has happened to him and others like him. Soon after connecting with the doctor, Andrews says he experienced symptoms associated with the Havana Syndrome, a phenomenon first reported by military personnel working at the U.S. Embassy in Havana, Cuba in 2016. The syndrome has generated significant media attention in top-tier outlets, including 60 Minutes and the New York Times in recent years. An investigation went on to determine that Andrews had been targeted with an advanced energy weapon. The memoir is repped by manager and producer Dan Farah, who is also handling life rights and producing the adaptation for film on TV, as well as book agent Yifat Rees-Gendel of YRG Partners. Foreign publishing rights will be shopped at next week's London Book Fair. So on the same day that this article published, April 10th, Lou Elizondo chimed in on Twitter and gave his commentary on this upcoming book. He wrote, "I'm aware of all the facts regarding this true story, and to call it a bombshell story would be an understatement. Buckle up." That he calls this a true story is quite interesting, and I'm really looking forward to this book coming out. Elizondo must be pretty confident that it's a true story. Otherwise, I don't think he would put his reputation on the line like that and endorse it in the way that he has so publicly. Very interestingly, in August of 2021, there was a UFO conference in which Luis Elizondo, journalist Ralph Blumenthal, and renowned lawyer Daniel Sheehan were having a discussion. And Ralph Blumenthal talks about how the remote viewing program closed down. And then Luis Elizondo communicates to Ralph Blumenthal some information about that situation. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because from that article about the upcoming book, remote viewing was discussed. And remote viewing continues to be a fascinating potential. And if remote viewing really does work, and it's a hotly debated topic, then that indicates that consciousness truly is non-local and is not confined exclusively to the human mind.
You know, the government the CIA shut down or stopped supporting the remote viewing program, saying it proved a complete dud, right?
Total bullshit. Total lot more lying.
Interesting that they said that, number one. After all those years of supporting it and putting all that money towards it.
Well, Ralph, are you sure it's actually gone? Listen, I'm asking. I'm not going to answer that question, but
I don't believe it's gone.
Are you sure it's not being used?
Now, that was an interesting clip. And as Joe Murgia touched on, you have to wonder if at some point the New York Times, and Ralph Blumenthal has written for the New York Times, there will be an article pursuing the answer to the question of whether or not there continues to be a remote viewing program within the United States government. Now, the remote viewing program historically was from 1975 to 1995, and it closed down. But as you saw from that clip, it seems to me that Luis Elizondo was strongly implying that a remote viewing effort still persists within the United States government. And wouldn't that be interesting if that emerged in addition to getting UFO disclosure? You have to wonder what we'll learn in a post-disclosure world, if that time ever comes, assuming I'm correct about UFOs. You have to wonder what other secrets will finally complete their course, if you will, and will be revealed to the world kind of as a byproduct of such a groundbreaking secret coming to its last days of learning that there was a cover-up of UFO reality. We are in, frankly, exceedingly exciting times. And in the following clip from Vinny's YouTube channel Disclosure Team, Luis Elizondo goes into what his upcoming book will encompass. And his book is slated to come out later this year. And who knows, maybe he'll talk about remote viewing. In it, the book is going to be totally about UAP, coming from Luis Elizondo himself. I will have some commentary on this upcoming book, but first let's dig into that beautiful clip by Vinny of Disclosure Team. And the full interview will, of course, a link of it will be in the description below.
I'd like to switch this round and first of all start off by congratulating you on the recent announcement that you're bringing out a book. So congratulations on that. Now,
thank you.
A lot of people saw this headline article within the Hollywood Reporter that the book will reveal shocking details. And now we all know what people on social media like. A lot are speculating and making claims that it's a pay-for-disclosure tactic, which...
Right.
Of course they're going to. Can you just set the record straight, please, and so we can...
Yeah, I mean, first of all, what I'll say is that I'm writing the book. Second of all is that the intended audience is for a lot of people that have never even gone onto UFO Twitter. What I will say, and I won't go into any more detail than this, is that the purpose of the book is going to be very, very apparent when it comes out. And I think people who know me are going to be like, that clever guy. People who don't know me are going to probably wind up having to eat some of their words. It's funny to watch social media and people go way out on a limb and start making speculation, wild speculation. It's a money grab. It's pay for play. Okay, well, think that if you want to. But when the book comes out and people really they read it and go, holy crap, this makes sense. Now we understand why you did the way you did it when you did it. Will they apologize? No. They'll just, they'll go hide in the little deep dark corners of Twitterverse and maybe change their name or something. But I'm used to it. For the last 3-4 years, I've been used to people always accusing me of one thing. They're never happy, no matter what you do for them, no matter how you do it. You've just got people that are sharpshooting you. They're throwing rocks. I don't know why that is. It's sad. Yeah. I really hope that those type of people find whatever peace they're looking for. But if there's one thing, my track record speaks for itself. People should know me now at this point that I'm not a money grab kind of guy. I do things very deliberately, very strategically. And again, I think the book is going to serve a very specific purpose. And I think people are going to be delighted when it comes out. That's where we are with that. I'm not going to go into much more detail than that. Sure. But I think it's going to be very, very eye-opening. And I think people are going to come back and say, holy cow, wow, that was exactly the way to do it. And by the way, it's my narrative. So, when I sit there and I do an interview on a major news media, these are like 2 to 3 minute sound bites. Yeah. And and by the way, I don't control their editing. This is my narrative from my perspective without any filter. You get to read exactly how I feel about every single thing about this topic moving forward. And there's going to be some information in there that I do not normally have the liberty or the time to discuss. There's going to be a lot in there. But again, there's a very deliberate reason why I'm chosen to do this. And I think it will be very, very clear once the book is out, and that's all I'll say.
While I can't be certain, I seem to recollect that somewhere Elizondo said that part of the component of his upcoming book was to prevent and make impossible for the government to put the cat back into the bag in terms of the existence of UAP that exceed all known technology and that are of unknown origin. I don't know if he said something like that, but it's percolating in my mind. Either way, Luis Elizondo made it exceedingly clear that this book is not going to be exclusively to give his opinion on UFOs and talk about his experience with UFOs and that kind of thing, but there's going to be an inherent strategic purpose of this upcoming book. And that's exciting. That's interesting. And I'm looking forward to reading his book. And I will definitely read it, and I will cover it on this channel. Another thing I want to cover is, which I think is overlooked by a lot of people, and it's not a criticism of those that overlook this, but because it's easy not to think about this, but I don't think a lot of people realize how much Luis Elizondo, Chris Mellon, Kirsten Gillibrand, Marco Rubio, and by the way, Kirsten Gillibrand and Marco Rubio have both run for president and may have aspirations to do so in the future. The involvement they've had on this topic, the degree to which they've given this topic credibility, and the degree to which Elizondo has very intimately given this topic credibility. Does anyone realize the fallout that will occur if the disclosure process implodes and comes to a screeching halt and doesn't continue to escalate and develop and garner greater credibility as opposed to going in reverse? I don't think a lot of people think of this. And I think some people don't like to contemplate this, and this is me being cynical, because they don't want the debate to end. I think there are some people who always want to have those lines of, show me the dead alien body, man. Show me the proof. It's all just stories. I'm so smart because that's my perspective. I do think some people have that proclivity. So they don't like the idea of this coming to a climax, a conclusion. Because then they can't, what I would call, skeptically LARP, right? Play the game, baby, because they're playing the game just like some UFO believers are, man. They're not immune to indulging in this whole narrative. It doesn't matter if they're coming from a skeptical standpoint. They have a little inner LARPer just like a lot of UFO believers do, baby. I call it like I see it. But if this comes to a head, we learn there's legacy UFO programs. More people from the government come out and say this is real. And then you have scientific efforts like the Galileo Project and others. What if they find evidence? Well, now you can't skeptically LARP anymore. You can't act as if there's no way there can be any truth to this, because there's not an influx of good photography and all the other arguments they make. That's gone. You can't hover over the UFO community and try to set them straight and try to save them from themselves, right? That's been removed. So I cynically, and I admit that I'm being cynical, think some people don't like to think about how it is actually true that Luis Elizondo has put himself on the line. Chris Mellon, Kirsten Gillibrand, Marco Rubio. Heck, even the administrator of NASA, Bill Nelson, has put himself on the line to some extent by the way he characterizes this phenomena. And anyone who cannot see that, does not understand that, I cannot help you. I won't debate you because there's nothing I can do for you. It's very obvious many influential, high-profile people on some level have objectively put their reputations on the line. Because a guy like me, I'm assuming this process only goes in one direction. And it will never reverse. And you cannot put the cat back into the bag. This only goes in one direction. But if there is no ground truth to this, then it stands to reason at some point, sooner rather than later, we as a collective society will go back to pre-December 16th, 2017 New York Times levels on this issue. And if that is to occur, a lot of people will look stupid, and that is a fact in my opinion. So I want to go over a really fascinating slide presentation that was pretty big news when it came out. I never covered it. I wanted to cover it. We're going to cover it now. And here's a Reddit post from 3 months ago giving an introduction to it. And it says, on January 11th, 2023, Sean Kirkpatrick, PhD, director of the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, and the Department of Defense, gave a presentation to the Transportation Research Board, TRB, a component of the National Academy of Engineering, on AARO's UAP mission in civil aviation. And here's what Ted Rowe had to say about this presentation. And Ted Rowe is a UFO researcher that is well connected. He wrote on Twitter, there are levels of activity that UFO Twitter might not be aware of, which aren't consistent with these choices, referencing an earlier tweet. He continues, I can mention one. The slide deck presentation to the NTRB on January 11th is a direct roadmap of upcoming activities by AARO. Others I can't mention yet, but stay tuned. Now, before we dive in to that slide presentation, I want to share a clip from the most recent Weaponized podcast by Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp, where they interview Colm Kelleher, and Colm broaches this slideshow that we're going to dive into right after this clip.
Kirkpatrick also released, or somebody released on his behalf, an 8-slide PowerPoint presentation that sort of summarizes what AARO intent and mission statement and vision statement and what the next steps are. And I was very encouraged to see that slide number 7, there's a focus on effects on the observer, psychological effects, physiological effects. It's right out of the AAWSAP playbook. And so when I saw that, as opposed to when I saw the report was pretty,
lean.
Unclassified.
Let's say lean.
It was lean on details.
It's a report on a report, right?
Right.
It's a report on a classified report.
It'll be interesting. It will be interesting, or would be interesting, to view what exact sensors were used. And obviously you can't report that.
So I'm going to cover some of this slideshow. I'm not going to cover the totality of it, but a link to the totality of the slideshow that was released publicly will be available in the description below. So it starts with saying, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the Defense Department's UAP Mission in Civil Aviation, Sean Kirkpatrick, PhD, Director. Let's dive in. Unidentified anomalous phenomena. UAP are sources of anomalous spaceborne, airborne, seaborne, or transmedium observations that are not yet attributable to known actors or causes. Anomalous observations, material, behavioral, or capability attributes perceived to be beyond known performance envelopes. Key scientific and intelligence questions. Physical, technical, behavioral, and contextual characteristics of phenomena, their composition and their movement, capabilities, limitations, and vulnerabilities of phenomena, and any assessed technological gap between phenomena and the United States. Indications and characteristics of hazards, risks, and or threats by phenomena to the United States, its people, its equities, and or its instruments of national power. Attribution of phenomena to natural and or artificial sources. Indications of foreign observation of and reaction to phenomena, the disposition of observed phenomena. About the observer. Observer's date, time, location, and travel path for first and last observation of the UAP with as much precision as practicable. Observer's behavior toward the UAP. Sensors that detected the phenomenon, e.g. visual radar, any physiological, psychological, or other effects apparently corresponding to the UAP observation, observer's assessment of the UAP, including the nature of the phenomenon and whether it was benign, a hazard, or a threat, identification of any other observers. So that slide that I just went over was the one that Colm Kelleher cited and said was right out of AAWSAP, which was a UFO program, I think from maybe 2008 to 2010, and then later ATIP went online. And now we have AARO, All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. And of course, there's a lot of talk about other programs much more well-funded that have not come to light yet, that may come to light within the next year or two. I want to share a quick clip from a recent interview I did with Nathan Williams on his podcast. Here, James Fox goes into the understanding those in the know within the U.S. government have, including, in my opinion, the director of AARO, Sean Kirkpatrick, of what the most anomalous UAP truly consists of.
And look, they know we're dealing with a non-human intelligence, okay? They already know that. Now, they're going to distract you with weather balloons and misidentified aircraft and blurry fucking stupid videos, whatever. At the end of the day, I can assure you that they know we're dealing with a non-human intelligence, okay?
Breaking news just dropped on Twitter, and I really love when this happens when I'm in the midst of creating a video. It happens fairly frequently, and it underscores how in motion this disclosure process actually is, and how ubiquitous and frequent it is. This was just dropped on Twitter moments ago from standforbetter.org. Breaking news. We just confirmed Senator Gillibrand will chair an open hearing on UAPs, UFOs on April 19th in the Emerging Threats and Capabilities Subcommittee under the Senate Armed Services Committee. This is what true leadership looks like. This is about your national security. So that will be interesting. Another UAP hearing within days from now. And this will help us get more clarity on what the government really knows about UFOs so that we can stop debating using hypotheses as our framework. We can start unraveling facts. So I realized that in the opening of this video, my mic had a big piece of alien hair on it, and there's no way you're going to be able to unsee that. And I feel really bad about that. And I know my mic gets a lot of crap on it. This carpet that I have is a natural carpet, so it kind of sheds. It was a hand-me-down. It's actually, I would probably higher quality than a synthetic carpet, but the downside is it sheds. But why are we talking about carpet and alien hair right now when I'm about to play the disclosure flute? Let's get our priorities together. So I'm going to play the disclosure flute because I haven't played it in a while, and frankly, we have new UFO hearings April 19th. We're all going to watch it. And of course, I'm going to watch it, and of course, I'm going to cover it. So let's celebrate with a little bit of disclosure flute to help usher in a post-disclosure world. Sorry, I'm a little rusty. A little tired. I just want to publish this right now. Our get-together was fun, but now I have to publish this. Please do not forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You could become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You can give me a one-time donation. All those potentialities can be accessed in the description below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy, and I will appreciate it so much. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. I don't know what's happening now, but I actually kind of like it. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.